Da skal vi snakke AI og si velkommen til dagens gjester, og så må jeg bytte til engelsk da. To say welcome Dan Wright and Frode Støldal from Armada.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome to Norway.
Great to be here.
First time I understand. Frode is a regular here because he's had jobs in Telenor and also in Toppnet, the offshore telco provider.
Thank you, Marius, and it's great to be here. And great to be back in Norway, though.
Good to be, because you've been based in the US for a long time, I should say.
Yeah, but the last 5 years I've been based in Houston, actually, so it's been really great, yeah.
And working for Toppnet, who provides offshore not just in Norway, but also in the Gulf of America now?
Correct.
Down to Guyana?
Then to Guyana, Suriname, Mexico, Brazil, and so on, yeah.
And then you've built businesses before within tech.
Yes.
You got a hold of him. To do what exactly now?
Yes. So we are expanding very rapidly globally, Armada. The whole idea with Armada is to be the hyperscaler for the edge. If you look at a map of the world, there's about 30% of the world that has hyperscale AI data centers. And there's 70% of the world that does not. So that creates a digital divide. And Armada's goal is to bridge that digital divide. And we do that by deploying modular AI data centers rapidly anywhere in the world. And we're now coming into Europe. And actually this trip kind of marks our move into Europe from the US. We're also in the Middle East and other markets, but now we're coming into Europe, starting right here in Norway.
Because if you go on your website and look, I mean, these containers that you build that are sort of ready to go, fully integrated systems, they look like scaled down versions of these big systems that Microsoft, Google, all these companies build at large facilities.
Exactly.
These can be put on a truck, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I say it's the hyperscaler for the edge. Because if you think about what a hyperscaler is, what one of the clouds is, you know, Microsoft, AWS, Google, they're really just full stack infrastructure, full stack data centers. They've built hyperscale data centers, usually for large metropolitan areas where there's a lot of data. We're building distributed compute. Same exact concept, which is full stack infrastructure, but able to deploy in weeks versus years. And you also can move them around. So they're designed to be permanently mobile. As you said, they can go on a truck. We even have a version that goes in the back of a C-130 for defense use cases, can go on ships, permanently mobile.
But let's say you have the US Navy as a partner.
Yes.
Let's say I'm ExxonMobil, Equinor here in Norway.
Yeah.
What am I getting compared to buying a service from one of these big hyperscalers? Is it the latency that I get processing much quicker?
Yeah, latency is a big piece of it. So a lot of our customers, they're experiencing significant latency, which for some applications is okay. But anything that you're trying to do real time, or if you're trying to do AI, you can't have any latency, anything with robotics or autonomy. And so as those technologies are continuing to advance and they're being used everywhere from rigs to mines to factories, you have to bring the compute to the edge where you're trying to do those things. And so we kill latency. It's actually about half the cost versus processing all that data in the cloud, and then you can just send the metadata back to the cloud. And it's also much more secure, and it's sovereign. One big trend that's going on globally is everybody wants to have their sovereign cloud, sovereign AI. This is a perfect match for that.
So location-wise, are we talking, obviously you can go in the back of a Hercules transport plane.
Yes.
Or a C-130. Yes. But are you talking putting it, say, in Freeport, Texas to service industry players there?
Yeah.
Or even more local, sort of?
Yeah, exactly. So,
or how far can you be within the end user?
It can be extremely local. And so really we can
or
place
how close
them,
do you have to be?
So you can have a distributed cluster of these. So the way that you should think about it, let's take West Texas as an example. If you go out to West Texas, there's rigs as far as you can see. You don't need to have one for every rig, but you might have one for every cluster of rigs. And what we're seeing is as data continues to scale up, then you need more. But the nice thing about the way that these work, they're completely modular and they're mobile. So you can move them around as you need to. You can sort of match it for wherever you have a large amount of data that needs to be processed, but you get the flexibility like you get with the cloud that people like as well.
Frode, I have to ask, since your former employer, Telenor, has been talking about this for years, actually, that they're seeing this big growth in edge computing. And AI has obviously grown more recently. Are you competing with them to offer these services? Because, I mean, recently we've seen them land contracts with Norsk Hydro to supply private mobile networks at their aluminum factories.
Yeah, not at all. We look at these as partners, right? Because, you know, I used to be all my life in telecom, and it's all about the last mile. So what we do know with Armada is basically, you know, giving the compute all the way to the last mile. So we have the ability to scale it across so many different verticals at global scales. So we actually also in US are partnering up with all the main telecoms. We think that is a perfect distribution partner and so on. Our strategy is not to go direct, but go with partners and so on, and give them access, you know, to all this compute and so on. That can happen real time.
Given that Toppnet is a partner of Armada, I can almost suspect you poaching employees from Toppnet then. But given that Toppnet is a customer, I saw them recently build up a private 5G network offshore, which I think is the world's first at the Jotun FPSO down in outside Stavanger. Is that a place where you could put it? Maybe not on the actual FPSO, but you could put it on shore, or?
So already in the software that Armada has, all the 5G APIs is integrated. So you can think about that the edge compute comes behind the 5G. So 5G is the last mile, and then you have the compute that do all, you know, the video cases around video, real-time analytics, and so on.
But who do you, because I understand your sort of customer base that you're targeting.
Yes.
But when it comes to actually the software that these companies use to, you know, generate the compute need that you supply them with, who are the biggest software providers that sort of build the software that these companies use to that need data centers in the first place?
What's quite interesting is that we built it again as a cloud. And so what I mean by that is the same way that you have the Azure marketplace or the AWS marketplace, we have the Armada marketplace. And that features any sort of AI model, any sort of application that customers want to use at the edge. Sometimes that is a third-party application. For example, we have a partnership with Halliburton, and their landmark applications can run at the edge for production automation. Microsoft is one of our largest investors and a major partner. If somebody wants to run Copilot or some other application from Microsoft, you can run that at the edge on the Galleon. And then what often happens is customers actually have their own models, their own applications that they want to run, and they've never been able to run them at the edge. And so we're extending those things, whether it's the SaaS application that somebody likes to run in the cloud, or it is a cutting edge, you know, startup, OpenAI or XAI, one of their models, or it is just the customer has their own model they want to run at the edge. We embrace all that.
And you've raised now
almost 250 million.
Yeah.
We actually just were in the news. We raised a fresh 131 million, and we actually just announced a new product which is called Leviathan, which is part of our Galleon product line. Galleons are the modular data centers. It's our largest yet. It's 1 megawatt. It's 10x the power of the next largest version, which is Triton. And if you want to stand up, let's say, even like a 50 or 100 megawatt AI cluster, AI factory, you can do that in weeks versus with traditional data centers, it takes years. Like we talked to somebody yesterday, they've been at it for several years and it's still not built. This you can deploy in weeks, and it's like parking. It's mobile.
Right.
And then it's stackable, and the other nice thing is the flexibility, whereas the chips and the cooling are rapidly evolving with, you know, these data centers, you can flex into that, iterate on the design, and also move it even from a tier 1 market to a tier 2 market to a tier 3 market and prolong the life of the asset.
So you have now Microsoft and venture capital behind you, and it seems like you have enough money to build some of these, or at least have a good, decent working capital. But what's your capacity to build these finished centers? I mean, do you assemble them in the US, or?
Yeah, so we're backed not just by Microsoft, but top VCs, Founders Fund, Lux, and others. We have manufacturing lines both in the US and internationally. We have a line in Dublin right now that serves the international market. And we can sort of deploy them as needed. And so the nice thing is, again, the time to value. There's sort of this AI race that really is going on globally. Every country we're seeing around the world is trying to stand up their own sovereign AI infrastructure as quickly as possible. This beats the alternative. It's faster, it's cheaper, and it's way more flexible than a traditional data center.
Given that they're around 1 megawatt, is power an issue, or do most of your potential customers have sort of already agreements with their utility that they can actually hook one of these up without causing too many issues? in the local grid?
So I think that power is in this industry going to be more and more a challenge.
It's a big problem for the big hyperscalers.
And it's the biggest challenge globally, right? But if you think here, we have the flexibility here that we can use all kind of power sources, right? And we can move fast and we are flexible on that, right? So a lot of companies, even here in Norway now, reach out to us that maybe they produce power and they want to, connect that
with
offtake. Yeah, exactly right. And we see that a lot in Texas too, right? So the convergence between the utility and power vertical industries and the compute and telecom is really happening as we speak.
I mean, these chips keep developing all the time. I think especially if you have a mobile unit, power efficiency and heat generation is obviously an issue.
Exactly right.
I heard Lisa Su talk about this, the head of AMD, that the industry needs to make these things less heat intensive and more efficient. Are you seeing movement not just towards more compute power, but also efficiency?
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just actually with Lisa and Jensen from NVIDIA in DC at the Winning the AI Race Summit, and we actually released a white paper, and this was one of the things that we were talking about, that number one, when you talk about winning in AI, winning the AI race, you have to win the energy race, and that means using all of the energy that you have. And so one nice thing about our galleons, these modular data centers, is we can use any energy source, even if you're converting flare gas into electricity, or you want to use, solar or nuclear or whatever. We can use whatever energy is available to power these AI data centers. And then the chips are getting much more efficient, and it's actually going to continue. What's really exciting to us, and I think kind of goes to show that modular is going to be very compelling in the future, is that the footprint of the chips that you need to do a certain amount of compute, a certain amount of AI, it's continuing to condense. And everybody believes, or at least I believe, it's going to continue in the future, and that bodes well for modular.
How about access to chips? I mean, they seem to be sold out around the world, right?
Chips are hot right now.
Where are you guys in the line when you knock on the door of NVIDIA and AMD and all these people? Do they have any spare parts left in their warehouses, or are they all sold out?
Yeah, so we have partnerships with all of the chip providers, and we have great relationships with them.
But is it constraining your growth?
So, I mean, the chips are always the challenge. I mean, everybody wants the chips. The nice thing for us, we tend to work with very large organizations, so sometimes they have their own chips. They're very high in the queue for these different companies. And then also we have our own relationships that we can use. But yeah, I mean, you're right. That is the sort of thing that everybody wants right now, and especially the NVIDIA Blackwells. We're seeing just a huge amount of demand for those globally, the GB300s. And so we're moving to get them as quickly as we can for our customers.
What competitors do you meet out there? I mean, obviously you're sort of operating on the side of the hyperscalers, but there must be other people who are sort of looking at these industrial players and seeing a business case.
You will find many companies that is in this modular data center business, right? But you don't find anyone that has the complete stack as Armada. And with that, we talk about, the software, the platform, the basically galleons or the edge, different kind of components, and the AI use cases. So I think that kind of end-to-end value proposition is very unique in the market. And that's also the reason why you see that Microsoft with M12 and so on are investing in Armada, to scale that kind of edge capability.
I don't know if you saw, but a lot of these AI-related big stocks this week got some pushback on Wall Street with the MIT report, the Gen AI divide. Do you see any pushback given the vast amounts of capital being deployed in the sector? That some CEOs and maybe CFOs are questioning whether, is our spending as a company on these AI systems and services paying off?
Yeah, I mean, it's not at all, honestly. When you look at the long term, nobody I talk to doubts that AI is going to change everything about business, and a lot about just how we live and work, and even governments, and certainly defense. And so we're seeing a huge amount of investment in that area. Increasingly, it's what can we automate? What can we use these AI models for, where previously it took somebody hours or days to complete something, and maybe it can give them almost superpowers where they can do it in minutes, right? And so that is what we're seeing. And I think it's going to continue, because if you look back 3 years ago, there was no ChatGPT. But now there is, and the models are continuing to get better and better. You have every CEO in America and all over the world playing with these things on their phone. The logical thing to think next is, how do I actually use this to transform my business? And with AI, they continue to get better, the models. And so there's also this existential threat. If you don't adopt the technology and your competitor does, you can be left behind.
We saw the sort of, it seemed like a sort of just a blow of wind and then it sort of died down, the whole Chinese LLM model that blew by here a few months ago, and then everything quieted down. But is the commoditization of these models going to happen, that these data centers with their models and everything is just going to be a very standard issue service, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road?
I think that the models are going to continue to improve very quickly. I think that when you look at the OpenAIs, the XAIs, of the world, they're going to continue to lead the way. You're going to have challengers for sure. I do think that what's actually going to happen is that the cost of intelligence is going to continue to go down, which is going to mean that there's more and more of these models, which again, when you're an infrastructure company, is great, because the more models, the more infrastructure you need to run them, and that's what we're focused on.
Because that's been a challenge, Frode, as you know, in telecom. Both of these phones, their yearly improvement is sort of diminishing, right? And the networks as well, they're just getting so good that we sort of take it for granted. And the telco companies struggle to sort of charge additional value from their customers.
So Marius, that's a very good example. So now you hold an iPhone in your hand, right? So when I talk about Armada and so on, I compare it with an iPhone. I basically said it's a very big iPhone. It's a 20 feet or 40 feet iPhone. But in that, for the enterprise, it has the compute, right? It has the software, it has the use cases. So when we talk about the marketplace, that's the App Store. When we talk about the Galleon, that's the iPhone. When we talk about Atlas, which is our software, that's the operating system. So what we are actually doing, we are giving that to the enterprise market, right? So we're giving actually telcos an opportunity to monetize that. So if they're able to basically bundle that together with their connectivity and so on, they can monetize also their 5G investments and so on, right? So we think that what happened with the iPhone when that came, 20 years ago or almost 20 years ago, it changed the way, social media, it changed the way you go to the bank, it changed the way you consume media. That's the same thing is going to happen now, right? Because if you think about the Norwegian fish farm, in Frøya. It was Capital Markets Day in my town, Bergen, yesterday, right? And you follow them closely. If you are a Frøya and you have all these cameras and you're going to really automate your fish production, you can't send all that data back to a hyperscaler data center, which is maybe,
Maybe in Stavanger if you're lucky, or Oslo, yeah.
Exactly, right? Or Sweden, right?
Yeah.
It has to happen where the production is. So that's actually what we do, right?
Last question before I have to let you guys go. Dan, given that Frode has now brought you around town and met all these different Norwegian companies, I understand. You said that Amsterdam was your first spot in Europe, Norway most likely the second.
Yes.
But talk about what, makes a country like Norway interesting for you, or what triggers you to decide, okay, let's go for Norway next.
It goes back to what we were saying about the energy.
We have to stay ahead of the Swedes,
Absolutely. No, Norway is energy rich, right? And I think the other thing that's quite interesting about Norway for us is that, one, you have a large geographic area. Two, you have a lot of our target industry. So we focus especially on energy, telco, utilities, defense. You have all that here. And then the other thing that's quite interesting is that you have a limited number of these hyperscale data centers. So there is that digital divide that exists. You also have a lot going on offshore in the North Sea, both from an energy standpoint and a defense standpoint. And so that creates an opportunity to, again, bridge the digital divide, bring AI to the edge, and create value. So we plan on being in Norway for a long time.
We'll pay attention to Dan Wright and Frode Støldal. Thank you so much. Safe travels back to the US tomorrow.
For å se mer, klikk deg inn på FA.no/TV, eller se oss på storskjerm når du vil ved å søke opp Finansavisen på din Apple TV.